Okay, started this way, spending this way, as is the symmetry of this season. No, we're here, the final review. I do not know Stuart's thoughts. You did your first reaction. I know that went really, really well. I saw the view count. It was huge. Looking forward to doing our live tonight doing an hour earlier, so it's 8 p.m. GMT and then 4 p.m. Eastern. It's a long episode, and it'll be a long live, so we're excited for that. But Stuart, I have no idea what you think, so tell me, what do you think of Star Trek Picard Season 1, Episode 10, the final? Did it stick the landing? Did it pay off? Did it work? What do you think?
I don't know what I think. I'm still confused by it. It's weird because it gave us a lot of the things we wanted and asked for, but only just barely some of them. For that, it's confusing. I found the first half was kind of forgettable. When you look back on the episode, it's like it ramps up the second half, and it's like, okay, yeah, all right, cool. And then when you think it's over, you look at the time left, and there's 18 minutes left. Okay, let's see where this goes. And then with the way it leads into the credits, with instead of being black screen, it's got the nice nebula. I'm like, oh, they're gonna do a post-credit scene. Q's gonna show up in post credits and do something, because there's no hook, there's no cliffhanger for season 2.
Or obviously, like, the portal would reopen a different part, and the first android, the synth scout, would come out, and it's like, okay, they're still here, obviously.
So I mean, I don't know what I feel about this episode. I enjoyed a lot of it, and it definitely had some great moments, but it also had some, oh, this is good. Oh, this is gonna be, no, it's not. It failed to deliver what it promised, I think. Okay, so here's the analogy. That little bomb that was in the ball at the end that they wanted to hit the target and blow it up, it was that. It was going towards the target, got intercepted by Soji and thrown into the air and exploded.
And then meant nothing.
There's some interesting moments, as I said, and some real emotionally impactful moments, which I didn't expect.
But they were nothing to do with Picard's show. They were to do with Nemesis and TNG.
TNG, exactly. Yes. I made that deliberately confusing because that's how I feel.
This episode is not bad. It doesn't drop the ball, in my opinion, but it's not a good episode. And it doesn't do the story justice. And it just shows you how poorly designed this season was, because they had all these setups, all these potential stories, all these character moments, all these character motivations, and none of them almost meant anything. It almost like Mass Effect. There's this, and kind of spoilers, but the franchise is this massive epic that builds up, and at the end, all the choices you've made mean literally nothing, and it becomes a one of three. You just pick left, right, or center. This shows the same thing. All these possible story things, like where was the cube? Why doesn't the cube heal and go up and fight? All these things that could have meant something, and none of them went anywhere. As if they had this multi-season arc. And then by episode 6, they thought, crap, we can't do any of that. Let's remake the entire finale that kind of neatly bows it. You mentioned Rios throwing the bomb. Why did a bomb come out and then fly to her hand, and then she see it? He didn't throw it. It zoomed towards it. Did she magnetize it? Did it magnetize towards her? That seemed and don't add a bomb subplot if it doesn't mean anything. And that entire thing could be cut out. Should be cut out. What was the point in introducing Sutra? She was meaningless. She was a non-setup, a non-payoff.
That being said, I really liked Soon by the end of this episode. Didn't like him in the last episode. I liked his character by the end of this one, and I'm glad it didn't kind of come to the fruition of him being lore. I mean, that would have been good as well, in a different way.
It would have given some depth to this episode, though, which had very little.
True, but that being said, I do like the character now.
Well, I assume they've left it so he's going to come back in season 2.
This one had a lot of what we wanted and what we were calling for all through the season, and they kind of delivered a lot of it at the end. We got to see more data. We got to see, a fleet of Federation ships, and we got to see Riker back in uniform.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like, there was a lot of, here you go, guys, this is what you wanted, but it was kind of like...
That is an example of, it should be the most satisfying moment ever. And Robert I. Burnett's in his review live that the way they play it, it's a dude on a screen in a ship that we don't see with no sense of stakes. It should have been view screen on the Romulan ship, and then suddenly cut to space, this beautiful flyby of the dude's ship, and it looks like amazing, and we get this Mikira music, da 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 da, and and then it cuts to the bridge, and we see this bridge shot, even if it's green screen, and you get this flare that the moment deserves. Instead, all you get is a guy, looks like he's on green screen, on a clearly redressed Discovery bridge, on the Discovery captain's chair with no changes, pretty much, looking kind of cheap. He looks great, he is great, but it falls as low budget as you could possibly get in that moment. And this episode felt cheap again. And I was expecting this big build-up, these big thing, but I think, honestly, the Romulan Commodore lady's set is green screen because they didn't show any of it. It was all close-ups, the same 2 close-ups. It was cheap and cheerful. I mean, that's not a bad thing. It's just, where was the money going? And obviously the fleet of ships, everything's a clone of everything of a clone of everything. And everything, every location in it was a redress of a set from last week. So this episode was probably like a 2 million budget. I mean, it was nothing. Again, this is the most... Where was the 8.5 million spent? Wasn't on the episode, and that's where this episode fell flat as well. Now, I appreciate there wasn't a big shooting war, because that would just been noise. If you're going to have a fleet show up with Riker, with all these payoffs, make it feel really satisfying. Make it feel like the Avengers moment, rather than just, oh yeah. And don't have him leave for no reason.
Oh, that pissed me off. I realized that he said, we're going to escort you to the Romulan border. That's not necessary. Oh, don't worry. It's fine. Says goodbye to Picard. And then I didn't even realize it the first time I watched it. The whole fleet didn't have to go, first of all. Second of all, that fleet was 2 times too big. It could have been half that size and been much more impressive, in my opinion, with different ships. The disservice to the character of Riker, unfortunately, there was a great disservice. He should not have buggered off like that. He should have stuck around, made sure everything was okay. And he, if anybody, should have been there at the passing of Picard, not the new crew. I think it was a real disservice for him to say, you got this, bye. And I know people have said, well, Picard wouldn't want him to know that he was dying. Riker had no way of knowing. And I understand all that. But with that amount of ships, you don't need him taken off as well. And even all the ships being the same ship, essentially, pissed me off to no end. But they did say it's the fastest, most heavily armed ship, and I got a fleet of them at my back. So if it's the fastest ship, I can see all of that class arriving first, but make it 10 of them, not 150 or however many.
Well, you know how Planitia got destroyed, and they didn't have enough ships to rescue Romulus, and in 15 years they now have a fleet of 200 of the best ships that are fastest ships ever. I guess destroying Planitia wasn't an issue. So why didn't they build around the rescue fleet?
I know there's more building facilities in Planitia. We both know that. There's quite a few.
It's just another plot hole in the entire season. And yeah, Riker should have been there for his death. I mean, even though Picard is resurrected, it's just like, it's a clone of, like, it's a mental clone. It's not really, like, the death of Picard happened. That is now his mental clone. So yes, you obviously put Riker there, since he's right there, and he's got better medical facilities, and, you know, especially since, obviously, O wouldn't just leave. She spent her entire life, 1,000 years of Romulan lives, so obviously she would have a cloaked ship. This is what should have happened. Obviously, there's a cloaked ship, everyone else warps away, cloaked ship deactivates, fires down, destroys the planet's base, and everyone's like, oh my god. There's no reason she leaves. It doesn't make any sense. It's the neat little bow that feels like such a reshoot, a rewrite. It doesn't work at all.
They made it seem like Picard's speech touched her in some way, because I know, but he was on her view screen, and the way she kind of like, they zoomed in on her face, like she was listening. And how many planetary assault and destruction of the surface things do the Romulans need? Use plan number 5. Is that like Mambo number 5? I want to make a parody of Mambo number 5 with the Romulan.
Her arc was terrible, and like I say, it should have been decloak, then destroy them. This anticlimactic, hurtful end, but they already had got people off. Because if Riker had been there, then he could have been either cloaked, because it could have been like, Galaxy X situation, they have a cloak too, and it could have been this nice. So the whole fleet's left because they're playing poker, and then the last 2 ships at the end face off because that's the, Riker's got a poker.
I agree. The focus on this was more the last 20 minutes, half an hour, which was done beautifully. It was actually very well written, very emotionally impactful.
It made me tear up.
Yeah. First time it didn't because I was tired. Second time when I was watching it again, I'm like, it kind of gets me. Third time when I watched it with Sylvia, that's when I teared up.
But the whole episode feels like it's leading up to this scene. It's like the entire season was window dressing to 2 data scenes that are actually good.
Well, they even said they had the plan for Picard to die all along, but it's mentioned briefly at the very beginning, and then, last episode, they're like, oh shit, there's that brain thing. And then all of a sudden that should have been played up through the whole every episode. Him having some little incident with his with that issue, because it was just forgotten for a while.
Well, especially as the first episode has the doctor, the episode with the doctor, he does not, in his dialogue, it's not implied that you will die within 2.5 weeks, because the season takes place within a week or two. Like, if he thought he would die in the next fortnight, that was not implied in the dialogue. Picard's like, oh, it's fine at some point, and then he suddenly goes from being fine to dead. Now, I get this.
I kind of got the feeling within a year or two.
Yes, exactly.
From that conversation.
A season or two of the show. I mean, yes, you could say the stress made it worse, and that's the only thing you can think of, but to go from being okay to now he's dead was ridiculous, and as if they forgot about it, they remembered right. It has no successful payoff because the setup was done so poorly. And
giving Girardi the famous lines like "make it so" and "one impossible thing at a time," like she's using everybody else's catchphrases.
Yeah, the "make it so" was forced as all hell. You wouldn't say that. Like, she wouldn't even. And then in fact, in the ready room, Patrick said he didn't like her doing that in the dialogue, and she convinced him, and he was right. It didn't work in the moment.
Let's talk about Seven and Narissa. I mean, that was a great scene. I'm glad that happened. You disagree? That's fine. I'm glad she actually died, though, and not came back later, like she grabbed onto something. Or I thought the Seven moment with her and Rios at the end was very well written. I liked their chemistry. I thought those two were going to get together.
Yep, much more logical than Raffi.
Yeah, and I pointed that out in my first reaction. People were like, well, it wasn't a romantic thing. They were just getting to know each other as friends. And I'm like, are you kidding? With the way that focused on that? No.
It was clearly a reshoot to make the ending happier. It was clearly added because they wanted to have Jerry back and make them a couple to give Raffi some sort of character, something, because she has nothing to do except that and her ex-son. And that's, I mean, I'm not against it as a principle, but at least mention Chakotay. Say they had 3 kids and he died, and now she's moving on.
I can give her a scene with Raffi, maybe in like Stardust City Reg, that would have implied something was going on.
Or give them what? Well, I guess they'd never seen together. You're right in that episode. But yeah, there's no chemistry there in that episode.
No, not at all.
I mean, have her and Raffi on the drinking scene. Why have Rios? Just swap the characters and it'd be fine. Then you have something.
Going back to Stardust City Reg, where she went down to see her son, her son told her to get out of there, and she went back to the ship. She had a scene with her and Seven talking because she was upset. That would have at least been something.
Well, she could have said, I know, kids. My kid hates me too. And you're like, oh wow, really? And that's all you need, No, but the Seven Narissa scene, what a waste of the Narissa character. But she was terrible in this episode anyway.
I didn't like the character from the beginning, so.
I mean, it shows how not interesting she was at the end. She died pointlessly, and it was just such a we want to have a kick-ass woman fight that means I haven't met each other, so there's no build up to this fight. It's just like, I know Hugh died, but she doesn't know what Narissa looks like. She doesn't know anything about Narissa. She doesn't know anything. So it felt so hollow to me, just like right, we got to kill Narissa, tick, done. It was amazingly hollow, and it was boring. It was a boring fight that was too quick, that was too easy. Narissa, yes, she got the weapons back online, but why wouldn't she just, maybe shoot the synths first? If she's got the Borg weapons on, why would she shoot the ship before shooting the planet? Because she could have won.
No line of sight from the Borg cube to the settlement. That would be my guess.
But as we know, torpedoes are self-guided, so.
only when they're focusing on a tailpipe.
But you know what I mean? It's another plot hole of non-goodness. No, that wasted. But Seven wasn't used well in this episode anyway.
No, but it was like I said, the scene with her and Rios was good, and I thought there was something there with those two, which would have been great.
Well, they're both charming rogues. Raffi's not.
They must be too similar. And Rios and Girardi kissing at the end, it's like, no. You kissed her when she was having a really bad time. You had sex. There's been 1 or 2 little scenes with them, kind of cute little moments, but nothing that constitutes what happened.
But I guess it's probably why they didn't over-harp the Girardi and Maddox relationship, because it would have felt so creepy and horrible if, we'd actually seen them be a couple, and then within 1 week of murdering him, she's kissing another dude. She could have at least been mad at him for abandoning her, and have some sort of, I've got over you in the last 10 years because you abandoned me, you left me.
We still have Narek to talk about. I didn't mind Narek in this episode. Although after Rios fixed the ship with the thing, and he hears the sound, he's like, I know that sound. Really, you know the sound of some punk throwing rocks at your window? You can see from the back of the ship the window, yes? So you can see him anyway. But that line was awful. I didn't mind Narek though in that scene. You know, I got molecular solvent grenades and I'm throwing rocks at your ship. Think about it.
That's a good line.
Yeah, and I think he was done well in this episode, except for when what happened to him.
Well, nothing happened to him.
Neat little bow, ship, everybody full of happy people. Where's Narek?
Yeah, they forgot he existed halfway through, which is another embarrassing thing. So I didn't mind his acting. I just hated the scenes he was in. First of all, these people haven't met him yet, and they know he's the worst person ever. They trust him really quickly. He gives no proof to anything he says, and yet they trust him basically instantly. That was mishandled, because they wouldn't trust him. I mean, considering all the things have happened, considering Commander, O was the traitor, the Javash are the bad guys, they're trying to kill all life, not they know that bit, but... And then for some reason it cuts to them outside the ship on a campfire.
Yeah.
And it's like...
There's lightning in the background.
There is. But it's like, you have a ship that's repaired with food replicators and lights and tables and a holodeck that works, and you've chosen to walk outside and do a campfire. It's just because the writer said, I want to have a campfire story. They asked why. They said, shut up. I want a campfire story.
I like it, yeah.
But it was such a stupid scene. And for Raffi's quite a smart lady, and for her to listen to a obviously how many doomsday mythologies are there? And she's like, really? Oh, this is the truth. This is fact. And it's like, do you realize how many of these? Every planet has one. You're taking it as if it's gospel, you idiot. So that scene broke every character in that scene. And it's like, how much time do you have to waste to this scene? Why is there still setup in the payoff episode? Give us Riker moments. Don't give us this crap. We know about the doomsday.
Yeah.
What did that scene tell us? Nothing.
It gave us more of the story, the myth, which I like. The drums stretched with baby skin.
Maybe last
episode. With the skull.
The episode before that.
I just want to touch on the whole tentacles coming through the thing. And then that was such a non-thing. And I really expected when that thing closed for those tentacles to get like disconnected or whatever. It would have been neat, because then one of them could have come back to life and took off. It's like, oh shit, there's still a threat there. Or they have something to study at least for season 2. Because it's like, oh, the whole thing is just forgotten. This whole lead up of this whole series, there's something coming to destroy everything, is like, nope. Just because Soji smashed the console, it's done.
And all the Jatvash no longer want to kill synths. Just because of that.
Because they're people too.
It was embarrassing. It was. I mean, I like the fact that we didn't just get a big tentacle space battle. Like, we didn't get the bad side, but we just got a non-thing. But the real problem is that that what should have happened is it closed, and then 5 seconds later, a different portal opens up over there, and they come through themselves, because they've opened it. It's like, if Season 2 doesn't start with a portal opening, the synths coming through and starting to attack planets, then they've forgotten the biggest plot. Like, the synths can obviously reach you without this beacon. They're the one who gave you the beacon tech. They know where you are. They've read scans. So the synths need to be the villains of Season 2 and 3, because they can now find you and kill everyone. So it's just like the Borg from Q Who. Yeah. They're on their way now.
Yep.
And so to end the season, I was happy, like, oh, da-da-da-da. But the synths are going to come wipe out your galaxy any time now, and if they haven't got instantaneous transwarp, that's a disservice to them.
Well, they can move suns, but they can't.
They can't instantaneously travel via beacon they already gave you. So that was nonsensical. Just so much setup that's wasted.
Yeah, it'll be fun when we do our look at the unused plot threads.
Yeah.
Because there was quite a few. We did a live talking about all the plot threads that, they had laid down and whether they'd wrapped up. And it'll be fun to go back and do that again, so...
And I think the entire scene with the beacon should have been edited out. So Narek jumps down from the sky, fights synths that are stronger than him, that should just be able to stop him within 5 seconds. They don't take as a prisoner or hold the crew, and they don't see Rios and stop him before he can throw bombs. They don't care about anyone doing anything. This bomb comes out, launches itself at Soji for no reason. She throws it for no reason. What was this scene? It was like, oh, we've got to finish this plot. We've got to give them something to do. Right, done. Now they're out of the episode. Mm-hmm. Why did it fly at her hand?
I always thought I was going for something else, and she just intercepted it, but she didn't move dramatically enough for that. It was just kind of like, so yeah, I don't. She used the force.
That's what it felt like. Seriously, it was embarrassing. It was really embarrassing. And Narek, what makes you think kicking? You know how Data can still have a machine gun clip in the chest?
Yeah.
And say, hello. I don't think kicking them in the face is going to do anything. And he should know that.
Well, Elnor was kicking Android ass too, so.
And that... It's just that scene was definitely embarrassing. But they had to give Rios and Raffi something to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But I did like, for the most part, the Picard space stuff. He was in control, even though he wasn't. Like, he was trying to be in control. He was stronger. The Picard maneuver joke, I think, was funny. But I find it hilarious that O finds a threat of several hundred cargo ships. It's like you've got the strongest warbirds in your fleet. It's just funny that it's to buy them time. It buys them less than a minute. It was the minute they needed, though.
Yeah, that's very true.
But it's just like, could they at least not made that a thing, rather than last less than a minute? Give us a scene of it, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree, but it did give them the minute they needed for the cut and paste fleet to show up. So,
but at least, Stuart, there's 2 variations of nacelle types.
Yeah, well, which we'll be looking at, guys. So be sure to watch that episode. Not as impressive as I had hoped. You can tell it's a John Eves design, but it's also John Eves design by committee design. Again, there's not much going on there. That being said, we got a lot of different views of it because there was like 150 of them. So every shot of them, you get different angles.
Yeah, I just find it it's an okay design, but it's got about as much physical detail in the model as a Voyager ship of the week back in the 90s. I've said Pierre Droulet could build that in a weekend, which makes you think, did they build it 3 weeks ago in a weekend? Because, I mean, the ship has no... Like, the entire bottom of the ship has no detail. None. It's embarrassing how low quality that model was for 2020 modern sci-fi with the most expensive Trek show ever made. And if you know you're going to clone it and just tweak the nacelles on 2 versions, then you can make a really good model and then clone it. But yeah, at least we got it. It's just it felt cheap, as Riker's bridge scene felt cheap. So much of it felt cheap. It was.
But not for the epic moment, and that's the Data moment, where Data's consciousness is living within a matrix that was constructed from one of his own neurons. So he's kind of trapped.
Which was taken from B4. They explained that fully.
Yes.
It wasn't found. It wasn't bullshit. It was just in B4.
It's one of the memories from B4. Yeah.
Great.
So I love that, and I love how he was kind of trapped there, like, in purgatory essentially. And he just wanted to die. I thought that scene was great. When Picard woke up after he was dead, I'm thinking, oh, here comes Q. The whole scene, I'm thinking, oh, here comes Q in a minute. But again, never paid off. I think they dropped that Q hint to throw everybody off for that last thing. That's why I was hoping for after the credits there'd be a Q scene, because there's no hook for season 2.
I mean, I never got the sense that picture was real. Like, it was just some guy with a red... Like, it was just a red glove. It meant nothing. It was just a dude on set. It wasn't ever Q. I never got the sense Q would make sense in the show, so I'm glad I was right, because not for a second was like, Q's actually going to show up. I couldn't have Data look better, though, than in the first episode, because they've had, 9 weeks of better CG on his face, on his hair. I couldn't tell.
His hair
really.
looked awful. The hairline was awful. It was too abrupt. It was like a wall of hair. It wasn't the way the hair should be. And when he was lit in the darker room with the fireplace, it didn't look quite right. His eyes were really off. But once that door opened up behind Picard and the bright light washed in and he stood up, then he looked more like Data to me, which is weird because usually it's low light. You can hide and make things look better.
Well, they probably thought they'd get away with doing less in the low light, but when it's bright, they'd put more CG work in because it was like, well, his face is fully lit.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that conversation between the two of them was great. I love how it was explained that Picard remembered his death because he actually, he died slowly. And, Data didn't remember his death because he exploded. And it wasn't a memory that was uploaded into B4, so he wouldn't have it. But I love how he said, are you wearing the clothes that you were wearing when you died? Because I am.
Well, he wasn't exactly, because Picard didn't have the overcoat, he just had the shirt, so he actually had more clothes on than he died. But yeah, makes sense to that though.
Yeah, but no, that was a fantastic scene between the two of them, and then
damn sad.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. and then Data asking him to end his consciousness, which we'll get to in a second. But that scene was really good, like very impactful. I love how perked up and happy Patrick Stewart was.
His acting raised a bar.
He felt like Jean-Luc Picard again. He didn't feel like old man, you know.
Well, he was dead at that point. He didn't have the aches and pains of being old. He was already dead.
Exactly. But I love the I love you moment from Data, and you know I think that was great. Just so well played. It was very well written. I like that scene.
That was good. Yeah, it was good. I don't think it necessarily makes sense, and it doesn't pay off. Like, it doesn't. There's not a logical reason for Data to want to die necessarily. Why didn't they give Data a synth body 14 years ago, 10 years ago, 7 years ago, 5 years ago? Why didn't they give him a hologram body 14 years ago, 7 years ago, 4 years ago, yesterday?
No, I don't think they were aware that his consciousness was that aware inside the Matrix. They were using it to make other androids.
Well, obviously, it's still a mental clone image. I mean, it's calling it Data is still a ghost of Data. You know what I mean?
No, oh yeah.
It's a clone of one neuron of a damaged memory. You know what I mean? I'm devaluing it. I'm just saying it's not like the same as a Data. It's just, you know, as close to that as you can get. You know, I would assume Maddox would have studied this device and Sung would have studied this device. So at some point they would have worked out they're smart enough.
What happened was they created this matrix that out of his neurons, so they could do the neuronic cloning, and they scanned Picard's brain, threw it in there temporarily. That's when the conversation happened. Then when the door opens and he says, "Do I have to leave?" Data's like, "Yes, because you're going into your new body." So that was the transfer to the new body when you walk through that door. Data wouldn't want to create a hologram of himself if he had the holographic projector's access.
Why not?
Why would he?
Because he wants to be useful.
I don't think he's able to. He's not.
But they could have written that into the plot if they wanted to. Like, Data would not want to die unless he literally wasn't being given any avenue to live.
Because he knows he's not Data. He knows he's like you said, he's the ghost of Data. He knows that. He wants to die because that's what defines life, essentially, is the fact that it doesn't go on forever. And one of the things he always wanted his whole existence was to become more human, which makes your life finite. So I actually really like that whole...
But it's just weird because they could have made a new golem for Data, given him finite life, put him in there and given Data a life where he could feel emotion, feel sensation, and live, and give him maybe 10 years. I mean, you didn't need to kill him. You just didn't. You could give him finite life. A bigger present would be giving him a body. If they can obviously make a new golem, they did easily. They can make another one. There's no barrier to entry there. They make synths. They made lots of synths. This is the synth planet with tech that can grow a beacon and summon an alternate universe people that can fix a starship that was impossible. You tell me they can't make another body, put Data in it, make him only live 10 years and say, here you go. It was beautiful, but it was like, let's just kill Data.
I think, like, don't ruin the beauty of it by trying to dissect it like that, I don't think. I really enjoyed the way it played out. When Picard gets his new body, I love the conversation about how, well, tell me about my body. Well, you don't have superpowers or anything. Picard's like, oh, no super strength, nothing. And then, oh, you're going to live about the same amount of time you would have. Well, I would have liked an extra 10 or 20 years. And then the realization hits him, and they just had this conversation with Data. You didn't make me live forever, did you? It's like, no, we were paying attention. We took care of you. Like, that was beautifully done.
In terms of killing a character and bringing him back, it was the smartest way they could have done it. Although you know very early on that's what's going to happen. So the actual payoff is very, very flat. You're just waiting. Like, Picard's death is very nothing. It's like, oh, he's dead. 21 minutes left. Let's wait for the encore. You know? It doesn't really work very well.
It was a good death scene, though. Like, that's... People just die because they die. They don't always have to have a bullet to the chest.
It's true. All those last words of Raffi, you were right. It's like, really? Those are the last words you pick of all the things. I mean, Kirk had... Because remember, that is his real death. Kirk had, it was fun. Picard says, Raffi, you were right. Terrible last words, because this is now a Picard clone. But just as much as a transporter clones you. I mean, it's still your mental signature in a new body. So, I mean, he's been cloned a billion times. But Picard did die. That was his last words, which is kind of sad. It should have been something more profound, because he didn't know he was going to live. Again, it shows that Raffi is the best CEO we ever had, because...
I see what you're saying, but not everybody can have epic last words, because your consciousness is slipping, so...
Yeah. It's just they're writing it. You know, they're choosing this. So sad they chose that out of all the things they could have chosen.
And then when he pulls the plug on Data,
sad.
It was the actress that played Soji singing Blue Skies. Don't know if anybody knew that. But that was her performing that. And with that overlaid on that scene was beautiful. It really brings a tear to your eye. And then seeing young Patrick Stewart, well, in his TNG uniform, sitting there with Data, was just the icing on the cake. Like, that was so well done.
And I liked seeing also Sung's reaction to this. He didn't agree necessarily, which was kind of nice. Like, he was very, okay, but, you know, so I liked how everyone played that scene. Although I think Brent should have got more in this episode. I think his turn was a bit too easy, but again, that was a rush. The first part was rushed. The end was lovely. Like, they really weirdly bounced it. You know what they should have done? They should have put the first 20 minutes into last week's short episode.
Yep.
The setup episode would have fixed it. No. And then
Picard died at the end of the last episode, so we have like, oh, that's a hook to get us for the.
Well, it should have been the Romulan ships like warp in like that moment, and then you could have had Riker be in it more and all that stuff. Yeah, let's just close outs. Although they never mention one of the Borg cube or the XBs or the Romulan researchers or
Narek
or anything, or the synths themselves, except the band's over. They have no ships, so they can't leave the planet. And then we get this very clean wrap up. I did like though Soji saying, "No, this is my family," and she didn't say that. She implied that, but said, "I'm better to go meander around." But it's weird to end on that because you're wondering, like, so do they not care about everyone on the planet? I mean, Picard said he was going to be their advocate, and now he's leaving without any sort of mention about like, and then the Borg cube. I mean, Seven would stay with the XBs. Obviously,
I think Siobhan and Kurtzman said it in Ready Room that what better way to show that synths are important than to have the most human character we have become a synth. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but and the whole do we care about the people on the planet thing? How many times in TNG when we're doing reviews do we go like, oh, now everything's just wrapped up and we fly away? That's exactly what this was. It was the end of a TNG episode. So.
And El Roman's going to be in trouble since they crossed the Federation border and sent a fleet of 218 ships?
No, because they went back. They heeded the words of Starfleet and went back to Romulan space.
So is Admiral O going to be, like, is he just going to awkwardly go back to her desk on Monday, like, I'm back, and just all these security guards beam in, point face at her. You should have come back up.
I had a good vacation. Thanks for the time off.
Oh, that was my twin. That was my half Romulan, half Vulcan. I'm the half Vulcan, half Romulan. So, yeah, it ended weirdly, but nice. Although I'm not sure what it didn't leave us with any hook. It was very much like a wrap-up, except, like I say, there should have been that Thanos post-credit sequence where you see the synth's perspective, and there's 1,000 of them, and they're creating lots of portals, and you're like, dum, you know. Or like Law's over there. Or you see Michael Burnham, and she's now Borgified, and you're like, damn, this is future Michael Burnham synth from the future. That's going to be a thing. Or Alice Krieg is like, wow, I saw the synth beacon, I'm going to come assimilate them all. You know, something that, you know.
Anyway, guys, I think that's it for this episode. This has been a longer one, but it's been worth it because this is the season finale and there was a lot to talk about. So be sure to join us tonight live at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 8 p.m. UK because you guys haven't set your clocks ahead yet.
Yeah, so it's early, and hopefully it means you guys will be able to join in. We'll put the thumbnail instantly so you guys can see, although in reality that's like a few minutes from now sort of thing, but because this is the past. But yeah, we'll see you then.
Speaking of, I need a thumbnail for that, Samuel, so I can schedule it.
Future me will make it for past you, and then present you will upload it. So, until next time, guys, we're going to go film the ship video so that you in the future get to see it. But I'm not being uniform. So, until next time, guys, do all the things like subscribe, all that, and just join us for the live, and check out our videos next week. So, until then, I'm Captain Foley. I'm Commander Kongs. Bye, guys.